Welcome back to another episode of Life in the Stands podcast. We have all four of us on the podcast today. It's Bender, Beans, Kyle, and Zach. It's going to be a great episode. We thought since the Super Bowl is over, we'd bring all four of us on. Quick reminder, we're on Twitter at stands_life. We're on YouTube and TikTok at Life in the Stands. And we're also on Spotify at Life in the Stands. Remember to go shoot us a follow. And remember, thanks for listening. We're going to jump right into talking about the Super Bowl. And we're just going to let Beans share his thoughts right away without any introduction. Go ahead, Beans.
Sad. Um, really just it's tough. I mean, I don't really know what to say other than we got out prepared, we got outplayed, we got out executed, we got out everything. I mean, we play
I
it
feel
sucks
the
it
sadness.
sucks to see the season go down the drain after like as tough as they fought as many different times as they fought through the season. Like we went on that 3 game skid, everybody started doubting the Niners. Are they really the team that's blowing out the Cowboys in week 4 or 5 or whatever? And then they come back, they go on another winning streak, and then they lose one to the Baltimore Ravens. Kyle, good game on Christmas.
Yeah.
It just sucks to see. And then, the whole Shanahan can't win big. He can't win from behind. He does it twice in the playoffs to go to the Super Bowl. And for him to and for the team to blow a 10-point lead again against the same team in the same uniforms 4 years later, it just sucks, dude. I don't really know what else to say. I mean, you can point to interior O line, you can point to defensive, schematics and game planning. I mean, when is the last time you've seen a head coach who is your offensive coordinator in overtime call a timeout on a big play because your defensive coordinator blew it 3 or 4 plays before when he sent an all-out blitz on third and whatever it was when Mahomes had that easy completion to Rashee Rice for that first down. Debo
Okay,
had
stop there for a second. So last episode we talked about if the Niners lose, who we were gonna blame. I want to know who you're blaming after this loss.
if I had to put, I mean, if I'm blaming one person, it would be because I think that the biggest problem was the preparation of the entire team. So, in my opinion, falls on Kyle Shanahan. I wouldn't say that I don't really think I had a single problem with any of the play calls that he had really. Like people are saying that he got away from the run in the third. Um, I think that they were
Which
just
he did.
what,
He did do
but
that.
but they were feasting on first down. We were constantly having to operate from behind the sticks on second and third down, which is exactly where the Chiefs wanted us to be at. And I feel like I guess they didn't navigate that adjustment as fast as they could have because I think that they did and they got over that pretty quickly. But I also think that that's when Spags just started sending the craziest blitzes ever. I mean, you got the third and four play at the 2 minute mark. If we convert there, we run the clock down, we kick the field goal, you win, right? But you have McDuffie on a delayed blitz. He takes a 2-step drop with Ayuk and then immediately shoots the gap and then I don't know. It just sucks, dude. Like I can talk about so many different things and I can talk about, you know, Chris Jones coming unblocked in overtime on the third down where he overthrew Jennings for the win. Like all of that stuff just it came down to how prepared the team was. I mean, you look at the talking point with Shanahan and how the Niners didn't know the new overtime rules. Like, how can you not know the new overtime rules? I'm explaining them to Isaiah, I'm explaining them to Steve, I'm explaining them to my brother, random guys on the couch. But how can you be an NFL team and have guys not know what the new rules are? Like it's just you have a team who has won 3 Super Bowls in the last 5 years, and you have a team who has lost the last 3 Super Bowls they've been in. And you can't just help but look at how prepared one team was versus the other, and that's on the head coach. I think that our defensive coordinator, Steve Wilks, is going to get the can because of it, though, unfortunately.
You think he'll be the fall guy? Steve Wilks will be?
I think so.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I do agree that the preparedness is pretty glaring. Especially when like Chiefs players are coming out and saying that they had multiple meetings ahead of time, like specifically
Right.
about overtime periods and
Training
strategy and
camp.
rules. And
They went over it. Oh, last week they went over it another time this week, like two
yeah,
times in the last 2 weeks. Like it's one team's a Super Bowl champion, the other one's not, and
there's a
just
reason.
for that. Yeah.
Kyle, any thoughts?
Yeah.
I
So,
hear you.
just from watching that from an outside standpoint, obviously I'm a Ravens fan, so we already got our souls crushed. So I kind of feel for you, Beans. I understand. But for me, it was just, yeah, like I heard that the 49ers didn't know the overtime rules. And I think that's something that was drilled into us, like as fans, like every single fan basically knew the overtime rules. So for the players themselves to not know that, that's kind of crazy. And then I was trying to find this one Instagram post I saw because speaking of that 3rd and 4 in OT, where they ended up kicking the field goal. First of all, I think you go for it. You can't give. We've seen time and time again, teams give Patrick Mahomes like an opportunity to win, and he does. You can't do that. So I think you have to put the pressure on. Say we either win or lose here, because if we give it up, especially because our defense has already played and they're so gassed. Um, but the post that I'm looking at is Jonathan. Maybe you can help me with this, please. Is it
Feliciano.
Jonathan? Yeah, he said he basically threw Spencer Burford
Yep. Yep.
under the bus.
His replacement.
Yeah, and he was supposed to be blocking Chris Jones on
Yeah.
that 3rd and 4.
No.
So he threw him like under the bus on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seems to me like everyone's falling apart for the 49ers. Like I don't know how you come back from that. How can you
Right.
yell at your teammate, blame your teammate like that
You got Ayuk's
when
family doing stuff on social
yeah,
media too,
On
or
it's
Ayuk's
just
yeah,
friends.
crazy
his
to
Yeah,
me.
girlfriend talking about her and her son aren't going to be in Levi's anymore. That's her last foot. They said or something. And it's tough because I mean, what did he have? 3 catches for 60 yards in the Super Bowl, and a couple, probably 5 or 6 targets.
and he's a 1,300-yard receiver.
It's
Right.
tough. But like that's just a testament that to the Chiefs, right? Like you have Debo who had 11 targets with 3 catches, right? You had George Kittle with 3 targets for 2 catches for 4 yards, right? Like it's you. Christian McCaffrey had his, right. He had 80 for 80 and 80 rushing, receiving, and then he's kind of one of those guys that he's inevitable, right? He's gonna get touches no matter what. He's gonna find production no matter what. Um, but if
It's
I'm
the
looking
corners, man.
yeah, if I'm looking
Corners of the
forward,
Chiefs.
yeah, yeah, 100%. And that's the thing is like last time we played them, their strength was in their front seven, not their back end. And this is a totally different defense. And I think that our front on offense is not a strong suit. It's what we have on the outside. So for them to play to the standard that they needed to get us to have to go to the outside where they were waiting for us to go, it was an Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo masterclass. You just got to tip your cap to them. I want to, talk shit about Nick Bosa getting held and Javon Hargrave getting held and all this stuff, but at the end of the day, that's not going to be the difference in you know the entire game. So we got outplayed, we got outcoached, got outlucked. I mean, torn Achilles in the first quarter. John Feliciano got hurt. Couple of plays later, his backup misses a big block, and that could have won us the game. Like,
Those things
Greenlaw is
make a
not the reason you
difference.
guys lost. Greenlaw is not the reason you lost.
I don't think you can say that just because Greenlaw plays, the Niners win, but you can't say that he's not a big reason why
for
that game
for
changed. Because if you're the Chiefs, like your game plan also changes. Like I don't like
right,
doesn't matter what game it is.
you attack a weakness that's now on
Yeah,
a team that wasn't there before.
yeah. So like it changes the
Underlying
game for sure.
genetics
Even if it
targeted
doesn't
identity
like
bald spots.
yeah, changes the game
Beans, what was that stat you
significantly.
said about the backup coming in and it was like 11?
Yeah, Oren Burks played well, tackled well, but he's just not the same coverage player that Drake Greenlaw is. I mean, I saw a stat where once targeted, he was targeted 9 times, had 9 completions, and the passer rating against when targeting Oren Burks in the Super Bowl was 138.2 or something like that.
Dre
Um,
Greenlaw's not giving that up.
Dre Greenlaw's
He
not
might give
getting
up some of those
them.
plays, not all of that.
And any look at any interview that Fred Warner's done, and the first person he will always give praise to is Dre Greenlaw. He has openly praised that man from the start. He has said that he can't play, he doesn't play the way that Fred Warner plays without him. He like Dre Greenlaw is, he may not be the best player on our team or the second or third or fourth best, but
He's
I
glue.
look at him like a Hufanga type player where he's gonna set the tone, he's gonna bring the team together, he's gonna play out of his mind. I mean, look at there's I saw a bunch of clips on Instagram and Twitter and stuff, or X, my bad, of like the first couple plays that Dre Greenlaw is in. He's a piss missile, dude. He's coming in. He's like I'm honestly convinced he would have gotten like a crazy, roughing the passer, some sort of personal penalty, but um he's a player that your team just does not play the same without. As much, I'm not going to sit here and say that he's the reason we lost, but you know, if Nick Bolton tears his ACL in the middle of the Super Bowl or in the first quarter, nobody's looking at the Chiefs and losing and saying, that's not a big reason, or that, because Shanahan's targeting that. You know what I mean? He's running to the side that we're replacing. He's sending Kittle or Ayuk or Debo to a gap in their zone. It's what
100%.
Christian does. It's they adapted on the fly. They did exactly what they were supposed to do. And that just, once again, Steve Spagnuolo and Andy Reid are dogs. They adjusted on the fly, where notoriously Shanahan doesn't really do that. He runs his stuff. He doesn't, you steer away from it. It's
So I want to dig into some things here quick. So it doesn't seem like you're putting the blame all on one person exactly.
mm-mm.
Um,
I wouldn't. I think it's a team loss.
I think I'm giving this to Shanahan. That's my personal opinion. I just think you have to go for it on fourth down instead of kicking that field goal. Just like Kyle said, you have what, 2 downs to get 4 yards.
So is
Um,
that, I was gonna talk to you guys about that too, because are you going into that thinking it's four down territory, or are you,
I am,
because
because
the
if
play
I
you
call,
get
am.
that first down, you
I
chew
am.
clock and the game's over.
right,
So
but if you
even if you
don't, then
don't,
you come away with no points, and now
See it, so, but
Mahomes has a minute and a half with all of his timeouts to go down and get a field
here's
goal
my
to win.
opinion though, Beans, because of the new overtime rules and you took the ball first, you're in a position where if you don't score a touchdown first, the game is over anyway. So if I'm the
Right.
Niners, I'm four down territory the whole way on that first drive. I'm saying to myself, I'm going to put up 7, expecting the fact that they're going to put up 7, but then I know I can win the game with a 3. And I would do that. And that's why, like, honestly, like, there's a lot of talk about these overtime rules. I don't think it's a bad idea to get the ball first if you think that if you think that you can't stop the other team. Because if you think you can't stop the other team, what you're basically saying is, I'm going to give my team 2 possessions and I'm just going to expect that you're going to score 7, but then you don't get another chance. So,
But if
like,
you want,
honestly, like I don't think that there's like I don't have a problem with initially doing that, but then you have to expect that it's fourth down on that opening drive and not take the 3. So that's where I think there's a disconnect between that. But I don't think as many people are talking about the fact that if he would have gone for that on fourth down, I think the way the game would have played out actually would have worked out much better for the Niners taking the ball, because they would have had a chance probably tied with the ball to win the game with 3.
were
So
you
there is
talking,
nuance there that I think there's a middle ground to, like,
right?
it
Were
wasn't
you
all
talking about
bad.
the overtime third down where we missed the Chris Jones block to, and then missed Jawan Jennings and for the touchdown? Or are you talking about the third down in the
Talking about
red
the
zone?
overtime third down.
Talking about the overtime third down? Yeah, I mean that's
I'm talking about both of them though.
Bender's
I
talking
would have
about
went
both,
for it.
so
I would have went for it
well,
on both.
the thing is, yeah. So like if
similar plays.
for me, if I'm gonna critique after the fact, I have no problem. If you're gonna go for it, I would have gone for it in regulation before I go for it in overtime. I think that, yeah, it's a 2-minute warning. You don't throw slants into a zero look, right? You run McCaffrey, you do something that's almost guaranteed, maybe like a Debo slip screen, right? And you play for the 4 down, right? They didn't do that. They ended up throwing up a pass, throwing a pass, stopping the clock, kicking the field goal, or whatever. Still gave Mahomes time to then march down the field and then kick it again. Now, I was listening to, some guys talk about the game after the game, obviously, and they were saying, you know, it, if you knew the overtime rules and you still wanted the ball first anyways, I think that's all right. I mean, Kansas City just drove down, what, 75 yards on your defense, or, whatever, 70, 65 yards on your defense. They're gassed. I think that's, I mean, like McBooty said, I don't think that that's an awful, you know, unforgivable take. I mean, if you're confident you can score, then do that. But you can't then chicken out. I don't want to say chicken out, but you can't then play conservative, because at the end of the day, the Chiefs, I mean, you know this after the fact, but the Chiefs are going to go down. They were going to give us the ball, and if we scored, they were going to go down, score, and then go for two. So
Right.
regardless, Shanahan, he said, he's like, we're playing for the third possession. No matter what, there wasn't going to be a third possession, and he couldn't guarantee there was. So,
There's a lot I want to get into.
it's just
There's so much to talk about with
much
this
stuff,
game.
dude.
There's a lot to talk about.
So much stuff.
Yeah, so
It's a
like
great game.
my thing is
One of the best Super Bowls of all time.
on that
Yes.
third and short in regulation right after 2-minute warning, I
Mhm.
would have ran the ball first down or not, just because you take away one more timeout from the Chiefs. And then you can go for it or make your decision from there. If you go for it, the game's basically over, or you have a chance to end the game on a game-winning field goal because you're going to chew the clock. So then at that point, like even in OT, it's like kind of the same situation in a sense. If you want to try and like end the game or have the best chance of ending the game, you need a touchdown in that scenario, not a field goal.
But
And
go,
the one thing I don't understand about people saying we didn't understand the OT rules is that like even if it was the old OT rules, a field goal didn't win it. You know what I'm saying? Like a field goal didn't win you the game in the old OT rules. So I think that
I
makes
don't
no
think
sense
I
to me
don't
why
think
people even
the
talk about it.
players not knowing it. I don't really think that is like a big effect in the game. They're not gonna play any downs differently. You know what I mean? The play
Yeah.
calls play call. So like
Yeah,
the
I
play.
think there's a lot of spotlight on it just because it looks bad. I think
Well, it
that's
just it
like
will
Yeah, it looks bad.
it
It means something
highlights
else.
not being prepared, and that
Yeah, it
once
means
again
something
falls
else.
back on the head coach. And
Right.
like you said, but I'm not. I guess I'm blaming Shanahan because of the mistakes of everybody. You know what I mean? And like, again with this luck thing, like I get it. Dre Greenlaw tearing his Achilles first quarter didn't lose us the game. You know what I mean? It wasn't end all be all,
yeah.
but you have to factor in luck. I mean, look at that punt. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I got you.
luck,
Yeah.
not it hit a dude's ankle as he's blocking somebody away from the. You know what I mean? Like, it's just
I mean, luck
shitty,
goes both ways, right? Like that bounce that you had right towards your guy standing at the 1 yard
right?
line. How do you know it's going to bounce right to him? So like, it's
Right.
just a shame it
Exactly.
wasn't a muff, right? Like it goes both ways.
Right.
Um,
Right. You
but I
catch
want to I want to address
face mask
something.
2 weeks before.
Yeah, I want to address something that you brought up though, because you want to talk about everybody's touches. I do think they should have got Debo more touches just to try and draw the attention away from
He had
McCaffrey.
11 targets.
Yeah, he had 11 targets, man. What do you want?
What do
No,
you
running
like?
running the ball. I think you need to put him in more jets, more motion, more everything.
That
Because
just
they
but that just plays to their strength. These edges, dude, they're
I get
monsters.
it.
Those DBs are. You think Trent McDuffie's gonna let fucking? Oh my bad. I'm sorry. You think
It's okay.
I think
he's-
Debo was also
Uh,
injured in this game though.
he pulled a
Yeah.
hammy or
Hold
had a
up. Yeah,
cramp or whatever it was on that out route he
for
ran.
sure.
I think
Yeah,
Ayuk
I
was
don't
the
know.
answer, honestly. I think Ayuk was the answer. And
Ayuk was the answer. Ayuk was the
I
answer.
think
Yeah.
Ayuk and Kittle were the answer. And I think C-Mac and Debo were honestly overutilized in this game. I think they're
I
Two good.
think
overutilized.
Ayuk I think Ayuk needed to be more involved. If you think about the way the Niners played all season, Kittle didn't have a great season. But I will say
Yeah, 1,000 yards.
Kittle did have a moment though. Kittle
Well,
had a big first down on a drive when he barely had the ball in his hands at all that game. So
mhm.
you
He
can't
was
say
too
he didn't
busy.
play his
He
part.
was too
He can
busy
only do
telling
so much about play calling.
Colts to
So
kick
I mean,
ass. We can't block.
hey, that goes back to the idea though that like Shanahan doesn't do a whole lot of adjusting mid-game, right? So he went into that game thinking to himself, we're going to get C-Mac and Debo the ball, which they tried to. And really throughout the game, if they would have looked at some of the coverages, the way they were rotating over and some of the blitzes they were getting, it probably would have been smarter to set up some more stuff to Ayuk or Kittle with the way the
yeah,
defense is rotating. So,
well, here's my opinion. I think he either overthinks or underthinks. And this is what I mean by it. So I think the run game was working in the first half, and you went away from it in the third quarter. I think you should at least play with a lead in ways like just to keep the ball out of Mahomes' hands. Your best option, give CMC the ball because Mahomes is on the sideline. The longer you can keep him on the sideline, the better, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I'm
Um,
actually gonna
the
I'm gonna
average
agree with
career
Zach
average
though
carry.
because Oh, sorry. Are you
No, you're good, Kyle. My fault.
okay? I'm agreeing with Zach because I think what made the Niners so dangerous the entire year was the fact that they had that even distribution of the ball. And each one of those players is so special and so talented that even just like a slant for Debo can go for 70 yards, just
Yeah.
one small like check down to Kittle, like a lot of times turned into a
Broken tackles.
60
Yeah.
yard touchdown. Yeah. And I think while it is important to get like your best players the ball, I think they're all your best players. Like that's how it is. So I think you have to spread that out more evenly than they did. And I think they just kind of like CMC only averaged 3.6 a carry. That's
Yeah.
not going to win you the game.
No.
And we could have a
Especially-
debate even about who is better between Debo and Ayuk, because
Mm.
I don't think
Well,
it's Debo.
we'll get into that later when we're doing my being GM or whatever you guys called it earlier.
We should
Yeah,
jump
let's
into that now. We've spent a lot of time.
let's
Well, no,
actually
I
go
was-
right to that.
I got one more thing about the Super Bowl because kind of
Okay.
to piggyback off Kyle. I know it's getting a little long. I'm sorry, but the fact that we have all those weapons and the amount of targets that they got and the lack of production that they had in this game, it's who like we didn't have a bad offense. You know what I mean? We moved the ball down the fields, and I think that speaks a lot to Purdy overall. I mean, I think that he out of if we're gonna blame anybody, that's the one person I think we cannot blame is Purdy
I
because
agree with that,
I think
100%.
that he did everything he needed to do. He got the ball to Conley on a third down on the out route that they ran on the opposite side of the field against the Lions, right? In one of their game-winning drives, or late drives. Jawan Jennings is notorious for being our third receiver, right? And he had obviously he had a passing touchdown, you know what I mean? But he had big catches. He had a touchdown catch. I think that Purdy did everything. I mean, he had a good, at the waist throw of Debo on a third down that Debo couldn't pull in. That would have been an easy first down, kept a drive going in the third quarter. So I know there was a lot of questions about him going in, but I don't think that there are much more around him moving forward. I know there's going to be a huge discussion with him going into the offseason and Kirk Cousins and, possible upgrades, but I think that Purdy's the guy moving forward. I think he cemented himself with his performance. Unless obviously something changes next season or moving forward.
I think that's probably a good segue into the next segment, which Beans is going to be the GM of the Niners. So
Dream
you're
job.
keeping Purdy.
I feel like
Purdy's
I'm-
going to be your starting QB, huh?
Yeah, I mean, he's the best bargain in the NFL. I mean, he's playing at like a top 10 quarterback in the league for pennies on pennies to the dollar. You know what I mean? He's makes the least amount a drafted player can make. We have some free agents like, couple names that come to mind. It's like Chase Young, Javon Kinlaw, couple backup offensive linemen. I'm trying to think if there's any other big ones, but we don't have any big pressing guys, leaving anything. I mean, Randy Gregory's obviously not going to be on the team next year. He was an expiring contract as well. So I mean, if I'm thinking about any of those guys that I'm keeping, I know we need interior D line depth. So I think re-signing Javon Kinlaw to like a 1 year, 2 year, kind of like a prove it deal. He played great in the Super Bowl. He only played like I think less than 30 snaps, but he played pretty well. I think that we can upgrade at safety, especially with Hufanga's injury. I don't think he's going to be ready to start the year. He might be actually, depending on what week he got injured. But Tashawn Gibson's getting old. Jair Brown played all right, but he's a rookie. He's a third round pick, and he was our starter in the Super Bowl. He was actually the guy that got injured the play before that Kelsey on the sideline catch where you catch and run. And then Logan Ryan had to come in, and Logan Ryan was the one that actually gave up that touchdown catch to Nicole Hardman and stuff like that. So the depth is a problem for the Niners. It's hard to get guys in the draft to come in and start for them. So we're going to be looking to free agency a lot. But the big problem looming is we don't really have cap space. So we have 10 guys making over $13 million, I think. And one of those 10 guys, two of those 10 guys are not going to be on the team next year. Like it's just there's no way you can work around it without the entire group taking significant pay cuts, which It doesn't really happen in the NFL. I can't really think of one instance where everybody on the team started saying, "Yeah, let me take take less," so the team sticks together. Um, so I think it's time to have that tough discussion. Kittle's old, he's 31, Debo's 28, Ayuk is an up and coming star. He's 23 or 24, I think. Coming off a career year, 1,300 yards. CMC is obviously the best offensive player in the league, as voted on by however many people that was. Um, so I know we were kind of talking in the group chat earlier about things that are going on and stuff like that, and we kind of alluded to the wide receiver conversation. And I think that Jawan Jennings is actually a name that I forgot about on our free agency list. I think that you re-sign him for sure. You can't let him get out of the building for as good as he is for number 3. Um, but I think that I know Debo's a big cap hit this year. I think he's like 26 million or something like that. It's pretty hefty. But see what you can get on the trade market for him. I think that you can get like a late 1 at best, maybe like a 2 and a 5 or something like that. Because if you're talking about, a receiver weapon moving forward, I know how versatile he is and I know how much he's done for the team, but I just think that the targets that he got in the Super Bowl it's kind of indicative of kind of how he plays, and it's a story. It kind of tells a story because he had a bunch of. I mean, he had a drop on 3rd down crossing the middle of the field, which is uncharacteristic for him, but that's just a big play you can't have. We had a deep shot to the back of the end zone on that deep go route that McDuffie broke up in, like, I think it was the first or early second quarter. And I just think that as versatile as he is, that only goes so far, because I think that he loses a lot of versatility when it comes to being a receiver downfield. I don't think he runs a route tree very well. I don't think he makes catches outside of his body very well. Not a huge catch radius. He's not the fastest guy without the ball in his hand. And I think that he's very dependent on the scheme to touches that you're going to give him. And when you can't give him those scheme touches because they know, the defense is going to know what you're doing, he becomes a non-existent factor. And that's, I mean, case in point, 3 catches on 11 targets. He had a couple carries, a couple of jet sweeps that were, went pretty well, but I just don't think that the amount of money we're paying him is worth the production and the hassle that it's going to be to scheme him the touches that he needs. I know that's kind of a tough thing to say as a Niners fan. I know Debo's done a lot since 2019. He's been, a dog. He put the team on his back in 2021. Especially in that Rams game, week 18, to make the playoffs. So it was just crazy, but that's definitely something that you have to look at. And if you can get something for him, do it, and add to the 11 draft picks that we have. I think that in the draft is going to be big. We need to retool. We need to get younger on this team. We need to get cheaper on this team. 11 draft picks that we do have, including our first rounder for the last 2 years, or 2 drafts. Last first round pick since Trey Lance. So I think that we have enough ammunition. We're going to get compensatory picks from people leaving and stuff like that. So I think we can move up, we can move down, we can do anything we're going to need to do in the draft. And I think we need to really target offensive tackle. We really need to go interior O-line, because Purdy is a small guy and you see him get balls batted all the time. Every single game he has 1 or 2 balls batted. So we need to make sure we're fortifying, we're protecting the investment that we have at the quarterback, even if it is only, $875,000 a year and a 7th round pick. So
It's eventually going to be more, but that is a good synopsis, Beans,
Mhm.
of
Yeah.
an off-season plan for the Niners.
that was a little rambly, sorry.
I have one more question then before we move to the last segment. Who would be your number 1 pick, and what is the Niners' first round pick this year? Because, well,
31.
like, their first pick. Do they have their first pick this year?
Yeah,
31st.
31. Yep,
Yeah.
yep. It's their first
Who
round.
do you take 31? And then we'll move on.
I mean, who do I think they take? I haven't even gotten that far, man. I mean, I can go
Position wise.
yeah, I mean, position wise, it's going to be tough because all the
It's got to be a tackle.
but we're going to have to trade up to do it, which speaks to the plan, right? We have picks. We have, a player that we can offload, or 2 players we can offload. We have, I mean, take your pick, really. I mean, is any one of these guys really enough to stop you from, retooling. I don't think so, especially when they're, some of these guys are getting as old as they are. I know that there are a couple guys that, um, there's that guy from Oklahoma, that I thought was a really good guy. I think that he has kind of like the same body type as Trent, big, athletic guy. And he'd be a good pick, but once again, he's not going to be there at 31. So any offensive line help that we're going to want or we're going to covet, we're going to need to move picks for. Otherwise, draft safety. Maybe edge. I mean, we need Chase Young's not coming back. Randy Gregory's not coming back. Maybe see if you can get a Toulousey guy, but another thing, we have Drake Jackson coming back from the IR next year. Not that he's shown too incredibly much. He's shown a couple of flashes here and there. Can't defend against the run. So yeah, we have to offset the amount of money we have in that D line with some young talent. So
Lots of spending.
yeah.
So speaking of the NFL draft, let's actually go to the next segment here. Kyle, we'll start with you. Been a little quiet over there, and we haven't heard from you in a while, so we have no idea what your thoughts are going to be. Are you keeping or are you trading the number 1 pick if you're the Chicago Bears?
I have been notoriously known as a Justin Fields hater. I think I've been quoted on this podcast before saying I don't like him because I think his face is ugly.
Yeah, you don't like his face, yeah.
That's
I don't
tough.
like his face. That's right. That being said, I think they get rid of it. I think that, like, based on the couple performances that he's had this year, I think he's proved me wrong a little bit. I think he's been pretty good. I think you're finally bringing in coaches that can kind of access his full talent. Because for a while there, they were trying to find this weird balance between like always running too much, always not running enough. And it was just this weird back and forth like seesaw. But I think that like near the end of the year, they finally found the balance that they needed there. So I think they do trade down, and I think they use that to get pieces around Justin Fields that can help support him. Because right now, like you saw what happened when you actually got him a real number 1 wide receiver instead of like Darnell Mooney, and Cole Kmet has been playing well. So I think the main focus for them is going to be drafting a good O-line because their O-line was disgusting
Body.
last year. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think they do trade the pick, and I think that's what's going to happen.
So
I would actually. Oh,
sorry, I love the trade the pick, but I think you trade Justin Fields as well. I think
Yeah.
So I think you trade Justin Fields for whatever you can get for him. Maybe like Atlanta wants him, or a guy that can, a team that can use him. And then instead of drafting Caleb Williams, who has I think come out and said he does not want to play in Chicago, you trade out of the pick. Now, who do you trade out to, right? Whoever's going to offer you the highest, but you also want to leave yourself in a position to get another quarterback. And who's better to trade up for Caleb Williams than the new team that Cliff Kingsbury is on, his OC at USC,
Commanders.
Washington. That's number 2. So what if you do like a 2017 Niners Bears, you swap just one spot and you say, hey, we're thinking about opening this pickup for the highest bidder, but we're going to give you the first dibs because you got number 2.
Yeah,
And
I
thinking of how much you
like that
get for that. Right? Because now you have the number 2 pick and you're taking anybody that's not Caleb Williams, right? So now you can still scout how you want, you can still move about how you want. You have extra picks from the Justin Fields trade. I think the Bears have a chance to really set themselves up in this if they play it right. And I just don't have any, I don't know, faith in them, the Bears. The Bears.
Yeah, I actually like that idea, and I never actually said this on the podcast, but I think Drake May is going to be the best quarterback from this draft. So I think if you trade down to the number 2 spot, you still are going to get another pick or 2 by trading the number 1 pick. And if you trade Justin Fields, you get another 2 or 3 picks on top of that.
Right.
So you can
Exactly.
build all from one draft. So I like that idea. I'm actually going to agree with that idea. I think this is the first time somebody's changed my opinion. But I think, yeah, if you can get, I don't know, even Jaden Daniels or Drake May at that number 2 spot, I think that's still a promising quarterback. Like this is a very deep quarterback draft. So I think that's a great idea, and you can kind of build line. You can maybe draft
Right.
Marvin Harrison Jr. Depends
Mhm.
on what picks you get.
Right. And
Um,
how you facilitate those picks to move up. I have a
Right.
quick question for Kyle. Who's your favorite quarterback in this draft? I'm very
Justin Fields. No, seriously though, like if I'm the Bears, I'm just going back to this. I don't think there's anyone with potential that is going to reach what Justin Fields has. Like I don't think you're going to find anyone that's going to be better than what he is now,
a
you
guy that
know?
can't read the defense.
That's a tough one. I think if you're gonna look for that in Caleb Williams, you're definitely not gonna find it. I think Caleb Williams is one of the most mentally weak prospects that I've seen in a long time. The athletic ability is there, the arm strength is there, the ability to play off beat is there. Although I do think he holds the ball too much, but um, at the end of the day, I don't think Caleb Williams is the answer. I think he's also very similar to Justin Fields. That is an issue. I do think Drake May is the most talented QB that's going to come out of this, but I think Drake May is going to go to a less talented organization, which is why I still think JJ McCarthy is going to have the best NFL career out of anyone. But we have to wrap up the podcast here. Thanks again for everyone tuning in. Remember to give us a follow on Twitter at stands_life, YouTube, TikTok, and Spotify at Life in the Stands. We'll catch you guys for the next episode.